Dr. Alex Carter checked his instruments one more time as his small submarine moved through the dark waters of the Pacific Ocean. He was 3 miles below the surface, studying deep-sea creatures that most people never knew existed. The water. Around him was black as night, lit only by the bright lights of his research vessel. Alex loved his work. For 15 years, he had been exploring the ocean depths, discovering new species and learning about life in the deepest parts of Earth. Today felt like any other day, until his sonar picked up something impossible. A massive object was moving toward him from below. It was bigger than a blue whale, bigger than any living thing that should exist in these waters. Alex stared at his screen, wondering if his equipment was broken. The object was smooth and metallic, shaped like nothing he had ever seen before. Before Alex could react, a gentle blue light surrounded his submarine. He felt no fear, only curiosity. The light was warm and peaceful, making him feel calm, even though he knew something extraordinary was happening. His submarine began to rise slowly, pulled by forces he could not understand. Above the ocean surface, Dr. Lisa Morgan waited on the research ship Northern Star. She had been Alex's partner for 10 years, and they had explored countless underwater locations together. When Alex's submarine disappeared from her screens, Lisa immediately called for help. Coast Guard, this is research vessel Northern Star. We have lost contact with our deep-sea vehicle. Dr. Carter was at depth marker 15,000 feet when all signals stopped. The Coast Guard responded quickly, but their search found nothing. Lisa watched the empty ocean, knowing that Alex could not survive long if his submarine was damaged. She had no way of knowing that her friend was perfectly safe, just not where anyone on Earth could find him that far above the clouds. Inside a ship that no human had ever seen, Alex Carter sat in a chair that felt like it was made from soft clouds. The room around him was filled with gentle light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. 3 beings stood before him, and Alex knew immediately that they were not from Earth. The first being was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished silver. It had large, kind eyes and moved with the grace of a dancer. The second being was shorter and covered in what looked like soft fur. It made musical sounds when it moved. The third being was somewhere between the other two, with skin that changed colors like a sunset. "Hello, Dr. Carter," the tall being said in perfect English. "My name is Zephyr9. We have been watching your world for many years. You are the first human we have chosen to meet." Alex should have been terrified, but somehow he felt completely safe. "You speak English perfectly. How is that possible? We have been listening to your radio signals and studying your languages for decades," Zephyr9 explained. "We wanted to understand your people before we made contact. We chose you because you study life in the deep ocean. You are used to discovering new things." The furry being stepped forward and made a series of beautiful musical notes. Zephyr9 translated. "Velarisong says that your work shows great respect for living creatures. This tells us much about human nature." Alex looked around the room, taking in details that his scientific mind wanted to catalog and understand. "Where am I? What do you want with me?" "You are aboard our research vessel, Harmony's Edge," the color-changing being said. "I am cultural. Analyst Thixian Prime. We have been studying Earth to determine if humans are ready for contact with the galactic community." "Galactic community?" Alex repeated. "There are others like you." Zephyr9 nodded. "Thousands of species across the galaxy live in peace and cooperation. We trade knowledge, share resources, and help each other grow. We believe humans might be ready to join us." Alex's mind raced with questions. Why now? Why me? "Your species has reached a level of development that interests us," Thixian Prime explained. "You have achieved space travel, global communication, and advanced science. More importantly, You seem to value knowledge and cooperation over conflict. The aliens showed Alex images of Earth taken from space. He saw cities lit up at night, the International Space Station orbiting peacefully, and research stations in Antarctica, where scientists from many countries worked together. We see a species that has learned to work together. Velari Song's musical voice was translated. Your artists create beauty. Your scientists seek knowledge. Your doctors heal the sick. These are the signs of a peaceful civilization. Alex thought about the world he knew. There were problems, certainly, but he could see why aliens might focus on humanity's better qualities. The images they showed highlighted cooperation and achievement rather than conflict. What happens next? Alex asked. Zephyr 9 smiled, an expression that looked strange but genuine on his alien features. We will return you to your ocean safely. You will carry a communication device that will allow us to speak with your leaders. In 1 month, we will return with a formal delegation to begin the process of welcoming humanity into the galactic community. Alex felt excited and overwhelmed at the same time. Will anyone believe me? They will have to, Thixian Prime said gently. The device we give you will prove that this meeting was real. Your leaders will be able to speak with us directly. The aliens spent several more hours with Alex, answering his questions and showing him wonders from across the galaxy. They showed him planets covered in crystal forests, oceans that floated in the sky, and cities built from living coral that grew in space. When it was time for Alex to return to Earth, he felt sad to leave. The aliens had treated him with kindness and respect that made him proud to be human. They seemed genuinely excited about meeting his species. Remember, Dr. Carter, Zephyr 9 said as they prepared to return him to the ocean. Your people have impressed us greatly. We see in humans a species dedicated to knowledge, art, and peaceful cooperation. The galaxy will welcome you with open arms. Alex's submarine was gently lowered back into the ocean, appearing on Lisa's sonar screens as if he had never been gone. As he surfaced, Alex clutched the small glowing device the aliens had given him. It looked like nothing made on Earth, and it hummed with energy that felt alive. The world was about to change forever, and Alex Carter had become the bridge between humanity and the stars. He had no way of knowing that the aliens' understanding of his species was about to be challenged in ways none of them could imagine. 1 month after Alex Carter's return from the alien ship, the world watched the sky with wonder and fear. 3 massive vessels appeared above Earth's Pacific Ocean, each one larger than any city. They moved silently through the clouds, their surfaces shining like mirrors in the sunlight. President Helen Rodriguez stood in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by her most trusted advisors. Defense Secretary Jake Murphy pointed at the satellite images on the main screen. Ma'am, each ship is approximately 5 miles long. They're maintaining position exactly where Dr. Carter said they would appear. Any signs of weapons? The president asked. None that we can detect, replied Dr. Sarah Collins from the Centers for Disease Control. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies, but only peaceful messages. They're asking for a meeting, not making demands. Professor Ben Adams, the historian who had been chosen to represent human culture, looked up from his notes. The messages are in perfect English, Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, and dozens of other languages. They know more about us than we thought possible. The alien messages were simple and direct. They wanted to meet with Earth's leaders to discuss humanity's entry into something they called the Galactic Community. They promised to share technology, knowledge, and friendship with the human race. Above the Pacific Ocean, a new structure began to form. The alien ships projected energy beams that created a floating platform the size of a football stadium. It hung in the air above the waves, impossible by any human understanding of physics, yet there it was. They're showing off, Jake Murphy said quietly. They want us to know what they can do. President Rodriguez nodded. Or they're trying to impress us. Either way, we're going up there. The human delegation traveled to the floating platform in modified Air Force helicopters. As they approached, Alex Carter felt his heart racing. He was returning to meet the beings who had changed his life. But this time, the stakes were much higher. The platform was beautiful beyond description. The floor looked like polished marble, but it was warm to the touch and seemed to glow from within. Gardens of alien plants created peaceful spaces throughout the structure, and the air smelled like flowers from a perfect spring day. Zephyr 9 greeted them with what humans would recognize as a smile. "Welcome, leaders of Earth. We are honored by your presence." Standing beside him were the same beings Alex had met before, along with several others. Ambassador Thixian Prime stepped forward, his skin shifting through colors that somehow conveyed welcome and respect. "I am honored to represent the Galactic Council in these historic discussions," he said. "We have waited long to meet a species like yours." President Rodriguez extended her hand in the traditional human greeting. The aliens had studied human customs and knew to shake hands, though their own greeting involved a complex series of musical tones. "We appreciate your patience in approaching us gradually," the president said. "Dr. Carter has told us much about your civilization." Velari Song, the furry being who communicated through music, played a series of notes that the others translated. "She says that your species shows great wisdom in how you have developed. We are impressed by your dedication to knowledge and peaceful cooperation." Jake Murphy looked around the impossible floating platform. "Your technology is obviously far beyond ours. What do you want from Earth?" "Want?" Zephyr 9 seemed confused by the question. "We do not want anything from you. We wish to offer you something. Membership in the galactic community comes with great benefits and few responsibilities." The aliens led the human delegation to a large meeting room where holographic displays showed images from across the galaxy. They saw worlds covered in cities that looked like works of art, space stations that harvested energy from stars, and beings of every imaginable shape and size living together in harmony. "This is what we offer," Ambassador Thixian Prime explained. "Knowledge, friendship, and the chance to grow beyond your single world. We have technologies that could end hunger, cure diseases, and allow humans to explore the galaxy." Dr. Collins leaned forward, her medical training making her focus on practical benefits. "You could really cure all diseases?" "Many species have faced the same challenges," Zephyr 9 replied. "Cancer, genetic disorders, aging itself. These are problems that can be solved with the right knowledge." Professor Adams asked about the history of the galactic community. The aliens explained that their civilization had been peaceful for over 1,000 years. Different species had different strengths, and they shared freely with each other. The Velari, like Velari Song, are natural artists and musicians, Thixian Prime explained. "My people, the Thixians, are scientists and philosophers. The Korthans are excellent at organization and resource management. Each species contributes what they do best." "What about conflict?" Jake Murphy asked. "Surely there must be disagreements between species." The aliens looked at each other in a way that suggested they were having a conversation without words. Finally, Zephyr 9 answered. "Disagreements are settled through discussion and compromise. We have learned that cooperation brings better results than conflict." "But what if someone refuses to cooperate?" The Defense Secretary pressed. "Why would they?" Velari Song's translated response showed genuine confusion. "Cooperation benefits everyone. Competition wastes resources and causes suffering." President Rodriguez could see that the aliens truly believed what they were saying. In their experience, all intelligent species naturally chose cooperation over conflict. They had no reason to doubt that humans would be the same. The aliens showed more images of their civilization. They had no armies, no weapons of war, no concept of one species dominating another. Their ships were designed for exploration and research, not conquest. Their technology was advanced beyond human imagination, but it was all focused on creation and discovery. We believe humans would fit perfectly into our community, Ambassador Thixian Prime said. Your art is beautiful, your science is creative, and your capacity for cooperation is evident in projects like your International Space Station. The aliens had clearly studied human achievements, but they had focused on the positive aspects. They saw the United Nations as proof that humans could work together globally. They admired human music, literature, and art. They were impressed by medical advances and scientific discoveries. We would like to offer Earth a special status, Zephyr 9 continued. As a cultural preservation zone, you would maintain your unique traditions while sharing in galactic knowledge. You would be protected and supported as you adjust to life among the stars. Jake Murphy frowned. Protected from what? From the challenges of rapid change, Thixian Prime explained. Some species struggle when they first encounter galactic civilization. We would make sure humans adapt at a comfortable pace. The meeting continued for hours. The aliens answered every question with patience and kindness. They offered to share their technology gradually, starting with medical advances and clean energy. They promised that Earth would maintain its independence while gaining access to galactic resources. As the day ended, President Rodriguez felt cautiously optimistic. This seems too good to be true. What do you want in return? Only friendship. Valeri Song's music was translated. And perhaps some of your wonderful music and stories. We have never encountered a species with such rich cultural traditions. The aliens requested permission to study Earth's history and culture more deeply. They wanted to understand human development, so they could create the best possible integration plan. They asked for access to Earth databases and historical records. Professor Adams agreed to coordinate the cultural exchange. We have thousands of years of human history to share. Art, literature, scientific discoveries, and social development. Excellent, Zephyr 9 said. We will begin with recent history and work backward. This will help us understand how humans have evolved into such a peaceful species. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Ambassador Thixian Prime made a final offer. We would like to establish a permanent communication link between Earth and the Galactic Council. This will allow us to answer questions and provide guidance as we move forward. President Rodriguez agreed, and the aliens provided a quantum communication device that would allow instant contact across any distance. They also offered to begin sharing basic medical technology immediately as a gesture of goodwill. The humans left the floating platform with mixed feelings. The aliens seemed genuinely kind and generous, but the offer seemed almost too perfect. Jake Murphy remained suspicious, while Dr. Collins was excited about the medical advances they could gain. As their helicopters flew back toward Earth, Alex Carter looked back at the alien ships. They really believe we're a peaceful species, he said to President Rodriguez. Maybe we are, she replied. Maybe this is our chance to prove it. Neither of them could have imagined what would happen when the aliens began to dig deeper into human history. The galactic community was about to learn that their new friends were not quite what they seemed to be. Dr. Emma Foster sat in her office at the Smithsonian Institution, surrounded by screens showing humanity's greatest achievements. As Earth's chief archivist, she had been chosen to upload human history to the alien computers. It was the most important job of her career, and she wanted to make sure humanity looked its best. She started with recent history, just as the aliens had requested. Images of the moon landing, the International Space Station, and global cooperation in fighting diseases filled the upload stream. She included Nobel Prize winners, artistic masterpieces, and scientific breakthroughs that had improved human life. Aboard the alien ship Harmony's Edge, cultural analyst Valeri Song processed the incoming data with growing delight. Human achievements were impressive for such a young species. She saw evidence of creativity, compassion, and intelligence that made her excited about welcoming humans to the galactic community. "Look at this," she played musical notes to her colleagues. "They created something called the Internet that allows all humans to share information instantly. And these medical advances have eliminated diseases that once killed millions." Zephyr 9 reviewed the data with equal enthusiasm. "Their art is remarkable. This music, these paintings, these stories. No wonder they have developed such a rich culture." Dr. Foster continued uploading files, working backward through the decades. The 1990s showed the end of the Cold War and growing global cooperation. The 1980s revealed advances in computer technology and space exploration. The aliens absorbed it all, creating detailed analyses of human social development. But as the data moved into the 20th century, strange terms began appearing that the alien translation systems could not properly understand. References to world wars were initially processed as global cultural festivals. The word Holocaust was flagged as a translation error. Fixian Prime noticed the anomalies first. "There are gaps in the human historical record," he reported to the Council. "The translation systems are having difficulty with certain concepts from their earlier periods." On Earth, Dr. Foster reached the 1940s and paused. She knew that uploading information about World War II might be problematic, but the aliens had asked for complete historical records. She decided to include the basic facts while focusing on how humanity had learned from its mistakes. The alien computers processed the new data, and alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The translation systems were reporting massive numbers of human deaths over short periods. The computers marked this as corrupted data because the numbers seemed impossible. VLA-RI-song called for assistance from the ship's senior analysts. The human data shows impossible population changes. According to these records, over 60 million humans died between 1939 and 1945. This must be an error in their calendar system. Zephyr 9 ran additional checks on the data. The records mentioned something called atomic bombs being used against human cities. But atoms are the building blocks of matter. How could they be made into weapons? The aliens' understanding of the universe did not include the concept of weapons designed to kill millions of people. In their experience, conflicts between intelligent beings were solved through discussion and compromise. The idea that someone would create devices specifically to destroy cities was beyond their comprehension. Dr. Foster, unaware of the confusion she was causing, continued uploading historical data. She included information about the United Nations being formed after World War II, emphasizing how humans had created international laws to prevent future conflicts, but the damage was already done. The alien computers had begun cross-referencing the historical data with their observations of human society. They discovered that the cultural festivals humans called wars had actually been massive conflicts involving the systematic killing of human beings. Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, General Pete Williams was conducting his own analysis of the alien visitors. Intelligence Officer Captain Amy Rogers had been studying the alien ships and their technology for weeks. "Sir, I don't think they have any weapons," she reported. "Their ships are designed for research and transportation. The energy systems are powerful, but they're not built for combat." General Williams frowned at the intelligence reports. "No weapons at all? How do they defend themselves?" "That's just it, sir. I don't think they've ever needed to defend themselves. Their entire civilization seems to be built on the assumption that everyone cooperates willingly." Back on the alien ship, Fixian Prime was having his first real doubts about humanity. The historical data showed patterns that made no sense to his peaceful mind. Humans had not gradually evolved toward cooperation like other species. Instead, they had achieved peace through what appeared to be mutual exhaustion from conflict. "Bring me the video records," he commanded. "I need to see these events with my own eyes." Dr. Foster had included documentary footage from major historical events, thinking it would help the aliens understand human development. She had carefully chosen footage that showed the consequences of war and the human desire for peace. The first video showed soldiers in World War I fighting in muddy trenches. The aliens watched in stunned silence as humans shot at each other with weapons designed to kill. The concept was so foreign to them that several crew members had to leave the viewing room. "They are killing their own species," the Larry Song's musical. Notes conveyed horror and disbelief. How is this possible? Why would intelligent beings harm each other? Zephyr 9 forced himself to continue watching, even though the images made him feel physically ill. Perhaps it is some kind of ritual combat? Maybe these are criminals being punished? But as more footage played, the truth became unavoidable. These were not criminals or ritual combats. These were ordinary humans fighting wars against other ordinary humans for reasons that the aliens could not understand. The footage from World War II was even worse. The aliens saw the aftermath of atomic bombs, the liberation of concentration camps, and the massive destruction that human warfare could cause. Several alien crew members suffered complete psychological breakdowns and had to be sedated. Dr. Foster received an urgent communication from the alien ship. Alex Carter's voice came through the quantum communicator, but it sounded different than before, strained and confused. "Dr. Foster, the aliens are asking questions about our historical records. They seem upset about something. Can you explain what a genocide is?" Emma Foster's heart sank. She realized that the aliens had discovered humanity's darkest chapters. "Alex, I need to speak with their leadership immediately. There are things about human history that need to be explained carefully." But it was too late. The alien computers had processed the complete historical record of human warfare. They had calculated the death tolls, analyzed the weapon systems, and studied the tactical documents that humans had preserved from their conflicts. Zephyr 9 stood before a holographic display showing human military statistics. The numbers were staggering. In the 20th century alone, humans had killed over 100 million of their own species through warfare. They had developed weapons capable of destroying entire planets. They had created strategies for psychological warfare, biological attacks, and the systematic elimination of enemy populations. "They are not what we thought they were," he said quietly to his colleagues. "These humans are not a peaceful species that learned cooperation. They are predators who temporarily stopped hunting each other." Ambassador Thixian Prime reviewed the data with growing alarm. "Look at their entertainment media. They create stories and games that celebrate warfare. They teach their children about military strategy and honor soldiers who kill effectively." The aliens began to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. The humans they had observed were not naturally peaceful. They were temporarily restrained by the threat of mutual destruction. The same species that had created beautiful art and advanced science had also perfected the art of killing their own kind. Captain Rogers, monitoring alien communications from Earth, detected changes in their transmission patterns. General Williams, something has changed up there. Their communication frequencies are showing signs of distress and confusion. "Have they discovered something they didn't expect?" the general asked. "I think they've discovered us," Rogers replied grimly. "The real U.S." Aboard Harmony's Edge, the alien crew was in crisis. They had invited a species of warriors to join their peaceful civilization. The humans possessed military technology and strategic thinking that could potentially conquer the entire galaxy. "What have we done?" The Larry Song's musical tones were filled with fear. We have given weapons to the most dangerous species in known space. Zephyr 9 looked at the data one more time, hoping he had made an error, but the evidence was undeniable. Humans were not the peaceful artists and scientists the aliens had believed them to be. They were survivors of countless wars, descendants of warriors, carriers of weapons that could destroy worlds. The question now was not how to welcome humans to the galactic community. The question was whether the galactic community would survive humanity's arrival. The emergency meeting aboard the floating platform felt very different from the first joyful gathering. Ambassador Thixian Prime's skin shifted through dark colors that conveyed fear and confusion. Valari Song's usual musical greetings were replaced by harsh, discordant notes. Even the gentle Zephyr 9 looked at the human delegation with barely concealed alarm. President Rodriguez could feel the tension in the air as soon as she stepped onto the platform. The aliens who had welcomed them with open arms just weeks before now kept their distance, watching the humans like dangerous animals that might attack at any moment. "We need to talk," Thixian Prime said without his usual warm greeting. "We have discovered things about your species that were not in your initial presentations." Jake Murphy, the defense secretary, stepped forward. He had anticipated this moment since the aliens first asked for historical records. "What exactly have you discovered?" "We know about your wars," Zephyr 9 said quietly. "All of them. We have seen what humans do to each other when they disagree." President Rodriguez had prepared for this conversation, but she could see the fear in the aliens' eyes. "We wanted to ease you into understanding our history. We didn't want to frighten you." "Frighten us?" Valari Song's translated music was sharp with panic. "You have killed over 100 million of your own species in the past century alone. Your people create weapons designed to destroy entire worlds. How could this not frighten us?" The president had brought additional team members for this meeting. General Pete Williams stood beside her, along with military historian Colonel Dan Hayes and psychologist Dr. Ryan Clark. She had hoped their presence would help explain human nature to the aliens. "You're right to be concerned," she said honestly. "Humans are capable of terrible violence. But you're only seeing part of the picture." Thixian Prime's skin flashed angry red colors. "We have seen enough. Your entertainment celebrates warfare. Your children play games that simulate killing. Your heroes are warriors and soldiers. This is not part of the picture. This is who you are." Colonel Haas stepped forward, his military bearing evident even in this impossible situation. "May I explain something about human warfare? You're looking at our history, but you don't understand the context. What context justifies the systematic killing of your own species?" Zephyr 9 demanded. Dr. Clark, a psychologist, tried a different approach. "In your species development, did you ever face extinction? Were you ever threatened by forces that could have wiped out your entire civilization?" The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. Valari Song played a few questioning notes. "Our species evolved in environments with abundant resources. Competition was unnecessary. Humans evolved differently," Dr. Clark explained. "Our planet is harsh and unforgiving. Resources are limited. For most of our history, survival required competition and sometimes conflict." General Williams spoke for the first time. "Every war in human history started because someone thought they needed something that someone else had. Territory, resources, security, or freedom. We didn't fight because we wanted to kill. We fought because we wanted to live." Thixian Prime's colors shifted to confused blue. "But you developed weapons capable of destroying your entire planet. How does this help survival?" "It doesn't," the president admitted. "That's exactly why we stopped using them." The same intelligence that created nuclear weapons also realized that using them would destroy everything we were trying to protect. The aliens struggled to understand this concept. In their experience, Intelligence led naturally to cooperation. The idea that humans had to threaten themselves with total destruction to achieve peace was beyond their comprehension. Colonel Hayes requested permission to show the aliens some different historical footage. Instead of battle scenes, he showed them videos from after the wars. Soldiers returning home to families, enemies becoming allies, former battlefields turned into memorial parks. "This is what you're missing," he said. "Yes, humans fight. But we also learn. Every war in our history taught us something about the cost of conflict." He showed them footage of German and American soldiers meeting as friends decades after World War II. He showed Japanese and American leaders working together after being bitter enemies. He showed former Soviet and American astronauts working side by side on the International Space Station. "We don't fight because we love war," Colonel Hayes continued. "We fight because sometimes it's the only way to protect what we love. And every time we fight, we try to learn how to avoid fighting in the future." Dr. Clark added his perspective. "The same psychological traits that make humans capable of warfare also make us capable of extraordinary sacrifice and protection. Human soldiers don't just kill enemies. They die to protect civilians, risk their lives to save wounded comrades, and show mercy to defeated opponents." The aliens listened, but they were still struggling with concepts that had no parallel in their experience. Valerie Song played a series of notes that conveyed deep confusion. "Your species creates weapons, then chooses not to use them." The translation. Side, you prepare for war to maintain peace. You train soldiers to protect civilians. These concepts contradict each other. Only if you assume that intelligence leads to a single type of behavior, General Williams replied. Humans learned cooperation and competition at the same time. We needed both to survive. Zephyr 9 pulled up holographic displays showing human military capabilities. "Do you understand what you have created? A single human military unit could conquer planets that have never seen warfare. Your weapons could destroy civilizations that have existed for thousands of years." The humans exchanged glances. They had not fully considered the implications of their military knowledge in a galaxy where no one else understood warfare. "That's exactly why we would never use those capabilities for conquest," President Rodriguez said firmly. "We know the cost of war better than anyone. We've seen what happens when people fight each other. But what if you decided that other species had resources you needed?" Thixian Prime asked. "What if you concluded that conquest was more efficient than cooperation?" Jake Murphy spoke up. "Then we would be destroying the very things that make life worth living. Human history shows that conquered people make poor neighbors and worse." Friends, the questioning continued for hours. The aliens asked about every aspect of human military development, trying to understand how a species could be both creative and destructive, both cooperative and competitive. The breakthrough came when Dr. Clark asked a simple question. "What would your species do if an outside force threatened to destroy everything you care about?" The aliens looked puzzled. "We would ask them to reconsider. We would offer to share resources or find a compromise. And if they refused? If they were determined to destroy you no matter what you offered?" Valerie Song's music became very quiet. "We would ... We do not know. This has never happened." "That's the difference," Colonel Hayes said gently. "Humans have faced that situation many times. Sometimes the only way to protect innocent people is to fight those who would harm them." President Rodriguez could see that the aliens were beginning to understand, but they were also becoming more frightened. "You're worried that we might use our military knowledge against peaceful species. I understand that fear. But consider this. If we were truly aggressive conquerors, would we have waited for you to contact us? Would we have shared our history honestly when we could have hidden it?" The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from the alien ship. One of their crew members, a being called Corthin Steele, who served as their military observer, had suffered a complete psychological breakdown after studying human special forces tactics. He was trying to understand human military organization, Zephyr 9 explained. When he realized that a small team of human soldiers could infiltrate and disable an entire alien city, his mind could not process the information. The aliens were discovering that their entire civilization had no defense against humans who chose to be hostile. Their technology was advanced, but it was designed for creation and exploration, not warfare. They had never needed to think about defense because they had never faced aggression. As the meeting ended, both sides were left with uncomfortable truths. The aliens now knew that they had invited potential conquerors into their peaceful galaxy. The humans now understood that their new friends were completely vulnerable to anyone with hostile intentions. What happens now? President Rodriguez asked Ambassador. Thixian Prime's skin showed colors that had no human equivalent, conveying emotions too complex for translation. We do not know. We must report this to the Galactic Council. They will decide whether humanity represents an acceptable risk to our civilization. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Zephyr 9 approached Alex Carter privately. Dr. Carter, I must ask you something. If another species threatened Earth, what would humans do? Alex thought carefully before answering. We would unite instantly. Every human government, every military force, every civilian would work together to defend our world. We would fight with everything we have until either we won or we were all dead. Zephyr 9's face showed an expression that might have been awe or terror. That is what we feared you would say. The humans returned to Earth, knowing that their future among the stars hung in the balance. They had revealed their true nature to being the Galactic Council. Emergency session was unlike anything in their 1,000-year history of peace. Representatives from hundreds of species participated through quantum communication links, their various forms of expression all conveying the same emotion, fear. Thixian Prime stood before the assembled council, his skin cycling through colors that showed his own confusion and distress. Fellow beings, we face a crisis that challenges everything we believe about intelligent life. The holographic displays showed Earth floating in space, looking peaceful and beautiful. But the data surrounding the planet told a different story. Charts showing human military capabilities, historical death tolls, and weapons technology painted a picture of the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. The humans possess knowledge that could destroy our entire civilization, continued Thixian Prime. They have developed strategies for warfare that we cannot even comprehend. Their military technology could turn our peaceful worlds into battlefields. A representative from the crystal-based Zarek species sent communication pulses that flashed like lightning. We should quarantine their system immediately. Build barriers that prevent them from leaving their world. The aquatic Nethari delegation's response came through water-based harmonics. Quarantine may not be enough. If they develop faster-than-light travel independently, they could spread across the galaxy before we could stop them. Velarison, who had spent the most time studying human culture, played hesitant musical notes. There may be another perspective to consider. Yes, humans are capable of violence, but they also show remarkable capacity for growth and self-restraint. Her words were met with skeptical responses from across the galaxy. The Council had seen the footage of human warfare. They had studied the weapons designed to destroy entire planets. The evidence seemed overwhelming. On Earth, governments around the world were preparing for the worst possible outcome. Admiral Kate Stevens coordinated naval forces while General Williams activated strategic defense systems. They had no way of knowing what decision the aliens would make, but they were ready to defend their world if necessary. Dr. Lisa Morgan led a team of scientists in analyzing alien technology, looking for potential weaknesses they could exploit if the peaceful first contact turned into something else. The irony was not lost on her that humans were already thinking in military terms. While their new friends debated whether humans were too dangerous to exist, the breakthrough in the Galactic Council session came from an unexpected source. Quillbright, a young Thixian researcher who had been studying human historical patterns, requested permission to address the council. "Honored elders," he began, his skin showing nervous yellow patterns, "I have found something in the human data that changes everything." The council fell silent as Quillbright presented his findings. Yes, humans have killed millions of their own species. But look at the patterns. In every case, they were fighting to protect something they valued more than their own lives. His presentation showed human conflicts throughout history, but with a focus on the motivations behind them. Humans fighting to protect their families, their freedom, their beliefs, their way of life. Even in their most brutal wars, there were examples of mercy, sacrifice, and protection of innocence. More importantly, Quillbright continued, look at what happened after each conflict. Humans consistently chose to help their former enemies rebuild. They created laws to prevent future wars. They shared technology and resources with the people they had been fighting. He showed footage of American aid helping to rebuild Japan and Germany after World War II. He displayed data on international cooperation, peacekeeping forces, and humanitarian missions. For every example of human violence, he found 3 examples of human compassion and cooperation. This species does not fight because they enjoy destruction, Quillbright concluded. They fight because they understand that some things are worth dying for, and they make peace because they understand that some things are worth living for. Back on Earth, Alex Carter received an unexpected communication through the alien device. It was Zephyr 9, and his voice carried a tone that Alex had never heard before. Dr. Carter, I must ask you a hypothetical question. If an alien species threatened to destroy Earth, what would humanity do? Alex thought carefully about his answer. We would do whatever it takes to protect our world and our people. Every nation would unite. Every person would contribute. We would fight until we won, or until there was nothing left to protect. There was a long pause before Zephyr 9 responded. And if that same alien species had peaceful members who were being forced to participate in the attack, what would humans do to them? We would try to save them, Alex answered immediately. Humans make a distinction between enemies who choose evil and victims who are forced into it. We've learned that protecting innocence is more important than destroying enemies. On the alien ship, Zephyr 9 shared this conversation with his colleagues. It was a concept that resonated with their peaceful nature, but it also highlighted something else about humans that they had not fully understood. Dr. Sarah Collins, who had been monitoring the alien communications, detected a change in their transmission patterns. President Rodriguez, I think they're having a serious debate up there. Some of them want to contain us, but others are arguing for something different. The president had been expecting this moment since the aliens first discovered human military history. What are our options if they decide we're too dangerous? Jake Murphy pulled up tactical assessments that military planners had been working on for weeks. Ma'am, their technology is advanced, but it's not designed for warfare. If they try to quarantine Earth, we might be able to break out, but the cost would be enormous. And if we did break out, we would prove that they were right to fear us, the president said grimly. We would become the aggressive species they think we are. The resolution came during an emergency council session when Ambassador Thixian Prime made a crucial realization. Council members, I believe we have been asking the wrong question. We have been debating whether humans are dangerous. But the real question is whether they are dangerous to us. He presented a new analysis of human behavior patterns. Humans become aggressive when they perceive threats to their values, their people, or their way of life. But they consistently show restraint and cooperation when they feel secure and respected. Valerie Song's musical contribution supported this analysis. They have never attacked anyone who offered them genuine friendship. Their wars have been fought against those who threatened them, or people they were trying to protect. The Council realized that their own response to humanity might determine whether humans became a threat. If they treated humans as enemies, humans would respond as enemies. But if they offered genuine partnership and respect, humans might become the galaxy's greatest protectors. The final decision came after 3 days of debate. The Galactic Council voted to offer humanity a new type of membership in their community. Earth would not be a cultural preservation zone, as originally planned. Instead, humanity would become the galaxy's defensive force. When the decision was communicated to Earth, President Rodriguez felt a mixture of relief and responsibility. You want us to protect the galaxy? We want you to teach us to protect ourselves, Fixian Prime explained through the quantum communicator. Your species understands threats that we cannot even imagine. You know how to prepare for dangers while working to prevent them. The new agreement established Earth as the center of galactic security. Human military advisors would train representatives from other species in defensive strategies. Human engineers would help design protective systems for vulnerable worlds. Human diplomats would handle negotiations with any future threats that the galaxy might encounter. In return, humanity would receive full access to galactic technology, knowledge, and resources. But more importantly, they would be trusted with the responsibility of protecting civilizations that had never known warfare. The integration process began immediately. Human instructors arrived at the Galactic Training Center, teaching alien cadets about concepts like defensive positioning, threat assessment, and crisis management. The aliens struggled with military thinking, but they began to understand its value. Admiral Stevens found herself explaining naval tactics to beings who had never needed to defend their ocean worlds. It's not about aggression, she told a group of aquatic Nethari students. It's about making sure aggression never pays off. Dr. Collins worked with alien medical teams to develop trauma treatment protocols for species that had never experienced violence. Humans learned these techniques the hard way, she explained. We want to make sure you never have to. The most significant change came in how the galaxy viewed conflict resolution. Human negotiators taught their alien counterparts that sometimes the threat of force could prevent the need to use force. The concept of peace through strength was revolutionary to species that had only known peace through isolation.